Worst of the famous Walt Disney Treasures DVD series. Hey everyone, this is Kevin, your failed journalist, and we are doing something a little different today in the sense that you are actually going to be seeing a live stream of video that I'm going to actually edit and release as two separate parts later on down the road. Yeah, that's going to happen. Now, why am I doing it this way? Well, I'm doing it this way because the following topic has basically been on the back burner for a very, very long time. I am way overdue in actually making these videos. And I decided, and I just closed a ring. This is one of the great things about doing live, that I am going to do a live stream of it so that basically I cannot get out of it anymore. Now, we had a bad start for the first time I did this. That went up for 3 minutes. I will delete that later. But we are now back, and I believe we will do this properly this time. Now, once I make the two separate videos, this video might actually go down. So, yeah, sneak peek to kind of what's goes on behind the curtains. But for those of you who are not aware of what the Walt Disney Treasure series are, the Walt Disney Treasure series are basically a set of DVD series that Walt Disney released, in waves each year for, almost a decade, really. They were the love child of Roy Disney and Leonard Maltin, with Roy basically picking the topics and Leonard Maltin putting things into context. And each one came in a tin can like this. It Early ones had like the number of the sets printed on, but then they moved on to putting gift certificates of authenticity on them to number the sets. And the reason they did this is because each one came in limited quantities. Now, when they first started releasing them, there was really no way to know how popular they were going to be, so they just printed a lot. Not a million a lot, but about a few 100,000 a lot. And then later on, that started to go down. Some got a little bit more than others, some went way down. And by the end of the series, they were producing on like the tens of thousands, and that now they are really, really hard to find. And the goal of this video and the next one is to basically pick out the top five best and the top five worst. But before we do that, if you haven't actually subscribed and smashed that bell button, please do so you will get notified of all our future videos, content, and live streams. So anyway, as my mom always used to say, it's time to get the bad out before the good. Get the worst out of the way, then you can focus on the good things. It always feels a little sour when you talk about the good first, and then you go to the bad. It just leaves things on a sour note. So let's start with the bad. These are the top five worst of the Walt Disney Treasure sets. And at number five, we have one that's kind of here on a technicality, but it is worth mentioning because I couldn't think of anything that was objectively speaking worse in terms of entertainment. I could actually only think of four discs on that I just outright didn't like very much. So the fifth slot was kind of a difficult one to decide. So I had to scratch my head hard, and I mean, I could have picked like your host, Walt Disney, for the repeated content. That would probably be a justifiable decision. We'll consider a dishonorable mention. But I'm actually going to pick number five. It's actually a shame because it's one of the first wave sets, and that actually probably made this worse, but it's Disneyland USA. I have copy 2,523 out of 150,000. Now, what is the technicality I'm talking about? Because here's the thing. The Disneyland USA DVD is overall something I could easily recommend. It has some very good episodes of the Disneyland TV series. First of all, it has the premiere episode of Disneyland USA where Walt Disney is sharing what the park is going to be, his vision for it, and that's definitely worth preserving. Also, it has a whole section of Song of the South in it, one of the Brer Rabbit cartoons, The Laughing Place. So, yeah, that's good. It has the opening day of Disneyland. Very good. It has the first episode of the Disneyland Ambassador Program. Very good. So, what is the issue with this set? And the issue with this set is that it's edited. And that was a problem because By editing this, the Disney company basically went back on a very key promise early on that these sets were going to be unedited, unaltered. That was the whole reason Leonard Maltin was there, to put context with these sets. And for the first wave to have a DVD where scenes are missing and subtitles telling people do not attempt to do this at home are included, completely, not completely, but it almost delegitimized the whole experiment right from the get-go. So again, I do think the episodes that they picked were very good for the most part. It has very important pieces of Disneyland media that thankfully we now have preserved on a disc, which for a while had not been made available for a long time, especially the opening day of Disneyland. But the fact that episodes were edited and warnings were added, that kind of seemed to go back on the promise of uncut, uncensored, unaltered. So, um, and as Ryan says in the live chat, I know most of you will be watching the re-edited version of this video, that Clock Cleaners and the Three Little Pigs were also edited in Wave 1 sets. Thankfully, they seem to get over that with the future sets, but the first one, so that's basically why it's there. But now we're actually getting towards the stuff that I genuinely did not enjoy watching that much. And the fourth worst Walt Disney Treasure set, and really this could have been either or, just kind of consider a tie, is the complete Pluto Volume 2. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I am particularly unhappy with the set, and it's not that I don't enjoy Pluto cartoons, but here's the thing. When you watch Pluto cartoons and you watch a bunch of them in a row, you start realizing pretty quick that Pluto's kind of a limiting character to make shorts around. You would think maybe that wouldn't be the case, but unless he's paired with Mickey Mouse or especially Chip and Dale, Pluto for the most part is not that interesting. Obviously, there's some gems. Obviously, there's some good shorts. But when Pluto is left to his own devices, he's basically doing the exact same thing over and over. And the only reason I picked Volume 2 as opposed to 1, although again, it can be 1 and or 2. It kind of just depends what mood you're in. By this point, you realize Pluto is really overstaying his welcome. They should not have needed to make this many Pluto cartoons. I would say roughly a third of them are good and worth watching. So even though I'm glad to, in a sense, have the complete collection, it's not like it's one that I take off the shelf to watch all that often. Now, the number third worst Walt Disney Treasure set is Alfago Baca and the Swamp Fox. Simply put, I just don't think this is that entertaining. I don't. It's certainly more entertaining than the next two options, but it's not entertaining. And then to add insult to injury, this is a really expensive set. This can easily go for more than $300 on Amazon and eBay. And I don't know if these things are on Disney Plus yet. Hopefully one day they will be, because I think that's just highway robbery for this. But again, that's not the worst. I actually really don't have much of an opinion on that series. I do have a big opinion kind of on the next one, which I always hate to bring this one up, especially considering that this video was requested by a Patreon supporter who has been very generous to me. But I really do not like Dr. Scion, the Scarecrow of Romney March. Sorry, yeah, Marsh. Sorry, I don't know why I said March. This is I'm sorry. This is not interesting. I've now watched the thing all the way through 3 times. It's never gotten any better. And this is another one of those sets that's expensive, like insanely so. Sometimes you can pay up to $500 for a brand new copy. And then here's what adds insult to injury. Disney Movie Club did release a Blu-ray of this show on their Disney Movie Club. It's exclusive to Disney Movie Club members, but you could get it there. Unfortunately, for purists, that Blu-ray is A, in color, this was in black and white, and B, is shown in movie format, which this is the TV shows, and the Blu-ray is cropped to be widescreen. This was filmed for 1:33. So I think that's the only thing that's keeping it expensive because if those Blu-rays had the black and white TV versions as well, there would basically be no reason to own this one except for prosperity's sake to say that you had the whole set. I also think, if I recall, this one might not be part of the giant Walt Disney Treasures Complete Collection. This or the Albaca, one of those two. So but that's the only thing that's really keeping it valuable. I do believe this is on Disney Plus. So, from my opinion, it's not that great of a show, and there's many ways to watch it. And the only thing that keeps this really inflated value is the limited supply and the fact that it's really the only way I can think of that you can watch it in black and white in the television format. Otherwise, you got to watch it in that colorized widescreen version. And if you're a fan of vintage Disney collectors, then that's. Oh, really? Is it in black and white? Let me hold on. I mean, is it in color and black and white? No, but it was filmed in wide. So I'm gonna add this before we move on to the next one. Ryan said that this was part of the Wonderful World of Disney, so it aired in color. And while this is true, it was filmed in black and white. I probably would have saved myself some comments had I mentioned that. And it's a legendary hero, so my number three choice that is not in that giant box set, which I will probably never own. But let's talk about the worst and talk about technical issues getting in the way of this one. This one should not be this high on the list, but because of a very specific way that it was presented, it is, and that is Disneyland Secret Stories and Magic. Now, kind of like the Disneyland USA, there's some good stuff on here. I'm not going to say it's completely bad. However, you see this right here, the Disneyland Secret Stories and Magic. That is a documentary on this disc. That's kind of like the feature presentation, if you will. And it's where basically a bunch of influential Disney Imagineers, cast members, animators, John Lasseter, they talk about the history of the park, the Disneyland, the history of the park, what it meant to them, some of the things that they did. But gosh dang it, they made this very, very baffling decision to film the documentary in 1.85 widescreen and then to letterbox the documentary. And I don't know why they did. So I mean, when we go back and edit this video for the non-live version, you'll see what I mean. But basically, they took this 1 by 85. You see this screen on YouTube right now, this is 1.85. Now imagine if this image was shrunk in the middle and there was just a little square box in the center of this square, player. That would not make any sense to you. Like, why doesn't that image just fill the screen? That was what I was thinking pretty much the whole time watching this. Now, there are scenes when they're going to show old clips of Disneyland or old commercials, and at that point, then you have a 1 by 33 aspect ratio. And if you had a regular TV, that would fill the TV. The problem was by the time this thing came out, like when was this thing released? This disc was released in sorry, nose itched. This set was released in 2007. Widescreen TVs were already becoming a standard in houses. It's not like they were new. Anamorphic widescreen DVDs had been around for years at this point. Why they didn't decide to make the feature presentation on this set anamorphic widescreen and then have most people be able to watch it on their widescreen TVs filled from corner to corner and then occasionally have to go to a 1 by 33 aspect ratio for the older stuff, I don't know. Instead, they prioritize outdated technology when they press this disc, and that, in my opinion, is just sloppy. It was a bad mistake, and I don't know how people could watch it and nobody raised this issue. Why didn't anyone authorizing these discs? raise that issue. So for that reason, Disneyland Secret Stories and Magic is, in my opinion, the worst of the Walt Disney Treasure sets. Gotta take a little drink first. However, I would like to know, do you agree with any of those picks? What would your least favorite Walt Disney Treasure sets be? Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. All right. So, as stated at the beginning of the video, we are doing like a live stream of what two individual videos are going to be coming later on. So now we are going to start filming the second video right now, immediately afterwards, and then this will be edited into two separate videos later on. So, well, we've been through the worst. Let's talk about the best. Hey everyone, this is Kevin, your failed journalist, and today it is time to talk about the best, the top 5 best Walt Disney treasure sets in the Walt Disney Treasures series. Now, for those of you who have not seen the worst list, I recommend you watch that video first, because not only do I explain why we're doing this list, but it's always good to get the bad out of the way first before we talk about the good. But if you have gotten the bad out of the way and you want to see the series redeemed, if you will, now is the time to do it. And we're going to start with my number 5 pick, and this would have been a tie. In fact, it is a tie, but I just don't feel like taking another set out. But it is volume 1 and volume 2 of Zorro, the complete series. Now, this was interestingly the last Walt Disney Treasure series, and it's a shame that this is the last one because if nothing else, this showed that Walt Disney Treasures actually still had life to grow. It still had room to breathe. It could still do some interesting things. Instead of releasing 3 to 4 DVDs this way, they released 2 and they did it for one show. They did it for Zorro, obviously. And there was so much Zorro, and Zorro was such a key part of the Disneyland series being important. It was basically decided that they would take these 2 sets and they would released the whole series on DVD. And you know what? This was actually a fascinating direction that Walt Disney Treasures could have gone, where maybe once in a while, if you couldn't think of any oddities to release DVDs of, hey, pick a TV series, release 2 or 3 seasons in the Walt Disney Treasures, and you could, keep the series going for however long you wanted. Not only that, Zorro is a very good show, and what's great is that these are the original black and white broadcasts. Now, it is true that Disney Movie Club did release the first 2 seasons on DVD to those members. However, those DVDs are colorized, and people wanted them in black and white. Unfortunately, these sets are extremely expensive, especially if they're brand new. Because if they're brand new, they had little extra things like Zorro pins. And what's more, there was only like, I think, 65,000 copies of each one made. They really were not pushing these that much near the end of the series life cycle. So if you want to see Zorro in the original black and white, and most purists do, you can easily shell out $1,000 for the whole set. That I mean, for the best one, we're gonna like put the how much these cost kind of like away. The only time price is a con is when I think the set isn't worth money. Do I think this is worth $500? Probably not. But that said, I haven't sold it yet, and I'm saving for a house, so maybe there's something to that, if you will. All right. So the fourth best Walt Disney treasure set, in my opinion, is behind the scenes at Walt Disney Studios. Like, I love behind the scenes stuff, especially when it comes to the studios. And what's fascinating about this is that these are early episodes, TV specials, and movies where Walt Disney kind of shaped the look of the studio on television. Like, he decided that the studio was going to be portrayed this way, and they were going to show how the process worked, but they were going to add that little Disney magic to kind of keep it still a little mystical. And behind the scenes at Walt Disney Studios was very entertaining for that reason. It was, for many people, their first look behind the studios. You see tons of footage of Walt Disney and kind of being just Walt Disney. And that I think is fascinating and very valuable. And The Reluctant Dragon was, a theatrical film that has a Reluctant Dragon cartoon in it, and I do like that short. And that was a fun movie. So this is the only place I think you can get it. So this is a very fun set, especially for those who like looking at that little behind the scenes curtains and nuggets of the way the studio works. All right, so the third set of the best is also the only one that comes in a gold tin. So some of you already know what I'm talking about, and that is Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And this is probably one of my choices more for sentimental reasons than anything else, because Walt Disney, believe it or not, did not get a start with Mickey Mouse the way the studio would like you to believe, or at least they wanted you to believe that for a very long time. That Mickey Mouse was his first creation and he found instant success. Well, really, Walt Disney had some ups and downs. He did some comic strip cartoons that never really went anywhere. He moved out from Kansas, I believe, to Los Angeles or Burbank, and he opened a studio. Now, his first real success was Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And with Oswald, that was by Universal. And the cartoons were successful. The character was popular. And when Disney went to renegotiate the contract, all of his animators except of iWorks had been hired away by Charles Mintz, the head of the animation department, I think, at Universal. And he basically offered Walt Disney half of what he was making for the first batch of cartoons. And oh, by the way, I own the character. So on the train ride home is when Walt Disney created Mickey Mouse and learned a valuable lesson about owning everything he created. Well, because of that situation, Oswald had not appeared in Disney cartoons for or at Disney parks or anything really. Oswald, even though it was in many ways, a very important character in Disney history, was not acknowledged by the company. Well, years later, there was a sportscaster, and I don't know who it was because I don't watch sports, I'm sorry to say, and I'm doing this live. Uh, but for those of you who are watching the video after the live one, this is the guy. But here's the thing. He wanted out of his contract with ABC to go to NBC, I believe. It was a Universal owned network, and Bob Iger, rather than sell the contract, said, "Hey, we'll release him from the contract. He's a free agent if you give us the copyright to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit." Amazingly, that happened, and then there was a search to find the cartoons. They found most of the cartoons, and they preserved them on the DVD. And so this DVD is actually very special to Disney fans. Has cartoons that Disney worked on before Mickey Mouse, which was very fascinating to see. They're definitely very primitive, but it was nice to see that they had survived to a certain extent. It has the story that I just told you about how Disney got the rights to the comic back, and then probably the highlight, a documentary by Leslie Iwerks about her grandfather of Iwerks and his ups and downs in his career before, during, and after working for Walt Disney. So, this is definitely something that most Disney fans should have. Interestingly, it doesn't seem to be that hard to get, and it's not that expensive from what I understand. In fact, I saw this on shelves for years after it had come out. I guess that means that Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is really a niche character for hardcore Disney fans, but hey, it's definitely, if you can only have one of three, obviously this would be one of them. All right, so my second favorite Walt Disney Treasures set is the Disney Rarities set. Now, obviously, we can like the Mickey Mouse cartoons and the Goofy cartoons and the Donald cartoons and the Silly Symphonies. There's nothing wrong with those. But once in a while, Disney would do something off kilter and weird. He'll want to experiment with 3D or claymation, and the short or the TV special did not fit with anything. So it would just be like a one off or something. Well, Disney Rarities grabbed many of those one off cartoons and specials that were just strange or bizarre and put them all in one set. And there are so many literally treasures in here that you would have never seen otherwise because they don't fit in with anything. They're not a silly symphony. They're not even a cute cartoon. One of my favorites is actually a cartoon about where your favorite nursery rhymes come from. Some of them are actually quite disturbing, and Disney didn't shy away from them. Now, unfortunately, a couple of the shorts Leonard Maltin does note were unique because they were in 3D, not in 3D, obviously. So, if Walt Disney Treasures ever came back and was released on Blu-ray, that would be a good time to rectify that. Just throwing it out there, Disney. But anyway, yeah. So this is just a treasure trove. In fact, I'm even gonna just look at some of these right now. Now, like the map in this booklet here, like we have some of the Alice shorts, like some of the early Alice shorts. You have Ferdinand the Bull, like you have Chicken Little, The Brave Engineer, Adventures in Music, Melody. Remember that little Disney sing-along opening? The characters from that, I believe, got started in Adventures in Melody. You have the story of Anyberg USA, The Truth About Mother Goose, Noah's Ark. I love the Noah's Ark one. A symposium of popular songs. I even believe Pigs is Pigs. Yeah, that's a funny one because I think that's the first Disney cartoon that acknowledged sex, believe it or not, in the sense that the guinea pigs show up at a um, postal service or something like that, and they can't decide whether they're rodents or pigs, and so there's like a back and forth, a search throughout the land to find the answer. Keep in mind the internet didn't exist back then, kids. And all the while, the guinea pigs are multiplying and multiplying and multiplying and multiplying like rabbits, and it's just funny to basically see a Disney short where horny rodents are the center of the cartoon. Really funny stuff here. So, and I don't think you're going to see these anywhere else. I don't think Disney has a lot of value or incentive to put them on Disney Plus, and some of them are just too strange anyway. So, I think this is the last place you'll be able to see some of these cartoons. But with that note, this next set, definitely nothing on this set you will see on Disney Plus. And I would be very, very surprised if Disney ever acknowledged anything on this set ever again because of, political correctness, woke culture, whatever you want to call it. Disney will never, ever acknowledge these in a official capacity ever again. So for obvious reasons, this has to be my most coveted and treasured Walt Disney treasure set, and that is Walt Disney on the Front Lines. This is, oh my gosh, I have watched this one so many times, so many times. Now, I do want to address the elephant in the room right at the get-go when someone say, "So, on the Front Rise, are those the racist cartoons?" And the answer is yes. Yes, these are extremely racist cartoons. Extremely. If you watch Commando Duck and don't feel a little uneasy while you're watching it on how the Japanese are portrayed, there's you might not see anything wrong with it then. It's just that simple. That's how blatant it is. And at the same time, it is absolutely fascinating how Disney and America, got through the war. This is literally propaganda. You have cartoons where characters are encouraging you to buy war bonds. You have Donald Duck as a German occupant, occupation, I should say. I'm trying to be careful with the algorithm words, and forced to work for the world's most evil man ever. And while a very funny song plays in the background at the end, Donald Duck makes it absolutely clear that he is absolutely proud to be an American of the United States of America, you know, counting his blessings. But it is that final shot is like so American propaganda patriotism. And yet these things existed. Like, believe it or not, these shorts and these documentaries, they helped people through the war. There are shorts on here that, like, military training videos that Disney made to train soldiers how to use their weapons and stuff, and they've finally been declassified. And so now we can see what they look like. There's the Victory Through Air Power feature film that had not been released on video or television since it was released in theaters, and will probably never be released again because it was a call to Americans to basically get involved in the war effort. There, heck, one of my favorite shorts on this thing, believe it or not, just because it's so interesting. There is a Pluto and Minnie Mouse cartoon where the short is encouraging people to save bacon grease and bacon fat. Seriously, this is a cartoon, and they're encouraging Americans to donate the bacon grease to the war effort because they could turn it into a bomb. Like, really, this is something, and it was government authorized. This is something they were actually doing. And I'm just glad that at the time it was just a good enough moment in time where people were tired of censorship. They wanted to know more of the history. And Leonard Moulton and Roy Disney got together and they said, let's put our war cartoons out and let's talk about it. Let's talk about this part of our history. They even, on the back, they made like a little military camouflage strip instead of the standard blue strip that's on all the others. So this, but we're now obviously in a time period where people, I don't want to get too political here, but I think people generally are not happy with history. They don't like how history plays out. You know, they don't like sometimes what their freedoms cost. You know, they don't like some of the things that we did. We didn't do all the great mistakes. And yeah, we weren't honest about how we were fighting the war sometimes. And so they look at things like this and they think it just should not be seen anymore. It's offensive. Take it away. Don't even talk about it. And so none of this is going to appear on Disney Plus. None of it. And I don't think Disney will ever re-release it again. And while you can have other sets that will become rare and it'll cost a lot of money, I think this is the one. If you can only get one, get this one and hold on to it as long as you can. You know, take care of the discs. Disney is never going to release this again. They will never acknowledge this again. Heck, they're already struggling with their own history for stuff that people are aware about. You think they want to ever bring attention to the fact that they made cartoons that made fun of the Asian race, that taught people how that they were going to make bombs and destroy things with people with them, that they basically talked about other humans from other countries as if they were subhuman. And look, there's a reason for this. Again, we're at war. This is a world war. It was, I know World War One was considered the war to end all wars, but boy, World War Two really upped the ante on that one. And people just needed morale boosts. And even if you might feel a little uneasy about it, you know, making fun of the enemy was one of the ways to do that. But now, because we can't make fun of anyone, even though The Office is oddly enough the most popular show of all time now, interestingly, by the people who say not to hurt people's feelings, I don't know. Like I said, I'm trying not to be political, but some of this stuff just rubs me the wrong way. This will never be released again because of those people, and Disney will never acknowledge this again. And I'm so glad that there was a point in time when they actually did acknowledge this. So that is my number one favorite Walt Disney treasure set. If there's only one you can get, make it this one. But anyway, that is where we are going to end. Thank you so much for watching this two-part video. I think I am officially done with the Walt Disney Treasure series, unless by some miracle I happen to fall into possession of the entire that giant box set. We will do an unboxing. We'll kind of talk about it that way. But unless that ever falls into my lap, I think this is the end of the Walt Disney Treasures journey. And I would like to know, what are some of your favorites? Did I miss any? Do you disagree with any that are here? Or which ones do you agree on? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. All right, folks. So, as stated at the beginning of the video, we will leave this live stream up for a little bit of time. However, I do intend to download this video and I intend to edit it a little bit. I intend to add images. I intend to cut out some of the awkward parts in the live stream. And we will re-release this as a two-parter. But on the off chance I end up dragging again and it takes months to do, you at least have this version that you can watch so that you know what my choices of selections were, and you know what to expect at some point. I think I was just waiting way too long to make this. Anyway, I have to take this stuff off because it is so. Oh, sorry, I forgot the microphones here. It is so hot here, and I'm going to turn on the AC, and I am going to relax and drink a lot of water because we're in a major heat wave right now. So, anyway, folks, thank you for watching the live stream. I will catch you all later.